Sterm Worm, trip of a lifetime. Let's fucking go. Alright, so here it is. This right here is my previous tripod. This right here is where it snapped in half, and this is where it's supposed to connect just like that. One might say that I'm the stupid one for putting a tripod in the middle of the street, but some fucking idiot ran over my tripod with my phone attached to it while I was shooting footage for music videos. This might be an unpopular statement. Luckily, nobody watching my podcast. It was presumably a girl because chicks are mad unaware when they're driving. Yo, I swear, that's the truth. It's not that chicks are bad at driving cars, but they're mad unaware while they're driving the cars, yo. There was some shots that I want to get for music videos, specifically in Austin. So I figured now that I'm like doing this myself, I was like, I could just shoot music video footage myself and bring it to Josh, the guy who does my videos, to control the editing process, because I don't know how to edit music videos myself yet. It's something I have trouble with when I was kind of playing around with it. But plus he puts on like mad effects that make them and that enhance the video a lot, so I like to do it through him. It's not that expensive to just go to him for the editing process. But so I was shooting the video footage that I plan to bring to Florida. I like to do all my music videos when like there's nobody around, whether I'm talking about pedestrians walking or cars driving. I like to do the music videos in the morning so that I'm not in anybody's way and shit. So there was so little traffic that I was able to just put the tripod in the middle of the street, and that's what I did. Because at first I was trying to put it on the median, and then the shot was too far because like I was doing it underneath the bridge. There's this really cool bridge here. So there's a median, there's the street, and then there's this concrete where I'm standing at in front of the graffiti on the wall. So originally I put the tripod on the medium so that it wasn't in the street, but then it was just too far away from the footage that I was trying to get. So I had to I didn't have to, but I chose to move the tripod into the street. I was like, there's no fucking cars coming. I could just put it in the middle of the street, and then when cars are coming, I could run into the street and grab the tripod. So that's what I was doing. But then every time I would grab the tripod, what I realized was the cars that were coming, that like I was grabbing the tripod to get out of the way, they were changing lanes anyway. When they saw the tripod in the middle of the lane, they would just change lanes because it was a 2-lane street. So after a while, instead of just running to grab it, I see all these cars switching lanes. So I just leave it in the middle of the street because I saw every single car was changing lanes. Then the first car that was coming after I left the tripod in the middle of the street, of course, I see them driving. And I'm like, what the fuck are they doing? And they just fucking drive right through the fucking tripod. I could not fucking believe it, yo. Afterwards, I realized, I was like, oh, I bet I caught the accident on film, and I did. And it's mad funny, the footage of me like running towards the tripod, saving it. I'm like, no. And then fucking you just hear smash. But what's crazy is how durable iPhones are. It didn't even break the iPhone. Like, I mean, the car must have been driving 30 miles an hour, smashed right through the tripod. The iPhone went flying, bounced on the floor a few times, and it didn't even crack. But yeah, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, the driver of that car, in my opinion, is a fucking idiot. I think in broad daylight like it was, if I was the driver, I would see that 1 trillion out of 1 trillion times, yo. There's no way I'm driving and a tripod is in the middle of the street and I don't see that shit. But do you think that driver was thinking, oh my god, how stupid of me, how did I not see a tripod in the middle of the street? No, they were fucking probably calling me stupid. Essentially, I am the stupid one for expecting this driver to be aware. But the only reason I expected the driver to be aware was because I saw how aware all the other drivers were. I wouldn't have done that if I didn't see everybody else already switching lanes. But everybody thinks everybody else is stupid. Nobody thinks they're the stupid one. Like, I'll admit, I'm stupid half the time. You know what I mean? Half the time, I'm stupid. And half the time, people around me are stupid. But nobody takes the blame when they're the fucking idiots. There's no way that driver admitted fault. And that's what bothers me about the society we live in. Like, if this went to courts, I'm at fault. You know what I mean? The driver's not at fault for being a fucking idiot. I'm at fault for putting the fucking tripod in the middle of the street. So I'm the one who was technically wrong in the situation. But that driver wasn't thinking, oh my god, that was so stupid of me, so unaware of me not to see the tripod in the middle of the street. They call me stupid. I know how it is, because everybody thinks the other people are stupid, but that driver is what stupid is to me. On one of my last episodes I dropped, I just talked about how I can't with all these drivers' stupid rhetoric. Well, that was a stupid fucking driver, and it might have just been unaware, but if you're that unaware when you're driving, then you're fucking stupid, yo. I was at the airport the other day, and this goes hand in hand with all drivers being stupid. I was at the airport the other day, and there was a car cutting through lanes. Like, it was in front of me, and it cut from like 2 lanes over and just kind of went diagonal to fucking hit the exit and stuff. And they're at the airport. Everyone's lost at the airport. Like, I'm not lost at the airport because I've been at this airport 1,000 times now. But like, if I wasn't here 1,000 times, I'd be looking at the signs and shit. And you see a sign at the last second, you're like, oh, I gotta get over. And they saw a sign where they went was for the South Terminal. They might have had to find the South Terminal, where if you were familiar with Austin Airport, if they were kind of lost, they'll be looking for the South Terminal for the rest of their life. They're probably still looking for the South Terminal, yo. It's like 7 miles away. It's off-site. So if you don't know it's off-site, you'll be fucking driving in circles forever. And that's probably what they were doing. And if they were looking for the South Terminal, now's their first time doing it, and that's why they saw the sign at the last minute, then they're not stupid, because I've been there. And we're going like 20 miles an hour, so it's not like a big deal for somebody to cut in front of me. Like, I didn't even have to hit on my brakes. And right as I was thinking if I was gay as fuck, I'd honk at this car. The passenger in the back was like, some drivers, I'll tell you. And I just wanted to be like, what the fuck you want to tell me? What the fuck you want to tell me? Because I know what you want to tell me. You want to tell me that some drivers are stupid as hell. But I don't think that right there is a stupid driver. Just because somebody had to cut me off because they had to get over and I didn't even have to hit my brakes does not mean that fucking person is a stupid driver. Everybody else who has to get over is a stupid driver until you're the one that has to get over. And then you realize, oh no, you're just caught in between. You're not a fucking stupid driver. Like, I was at a light the other day, like right after this happened. And I'm in the far left lane. There's 3 lanes. And then I get a ride on my app, and I had to make a right, and I'm in the far left lane. It wasn't a congested road. There was 2 cars in this lane beside me, and then 2 cars in this lane beside me. So I figured I would just wait at the light until those cars, like, we're at a red light. Once those cars got their green, they go, and then I could just cut across the lanes and shit because there's no other cars coming. But what happens, we get our green, and the car next to me, they're not going, and the car next to them, they're not going. I'm like, the fuck is going on? And I look over, the girl next to me is on her phone. And I'm like, of course she's on her fucking phone when I have to fucking get over right now. So, like, I wait like another second, like, because I'm hoping that she realizes that she has the green and she goes so that I could just go behind them. And she's not going, and the car next to her is not going. So I'm like, fuck it, I'll just go. So I start going, and the second I start going, she starts going, and she slams the horn at me. You're sitting at the traffic like you're unaware, and that's why you almost hit me, not because I'm a stupid fucking driver, yo. Then, like, another thing that just happened the other day. I'm on 71 getting onto 35. If you're from here, you might know the intersection and shit. Well, nobody's from here. If you live here right now, you might know the intersection. Just imagine, like, you're on one road that's like merging, you're on one major road that's merging into another, and there's always like a line of cars like backed up waiting to go to 35 south. It's always like congestion at this intersection, but you could cruise in the lane next to it. But I just know this specific intersection that there's no, it's like bumper to bumper traffic. There's going to be nowhere for you to squeeze in. You don't want to do that because then you're going to get caught in between and you're going to have to force your way in. So there's a car that's at the very end where, like, now there's a divider, so they have to either make the left or make the right, and they're just sitting in front of the divider trying to get in. And there's a car in the left lane that's trying to go the other way that isn't in the traffic, but they're blocking this car because the other car in the lane they're trying to get into isn't fucking letting them in. So in this, the car that they're blocking is slamming the horn at them, and in this car, this Tesla isn't letting them in. And as this guy's getting the horn slammed at him and he's trying to squeeze his way in, this Tesla's still creeping up more and not fucking letting this driver in. And that driver, the Tesla, is either extremely unaware or an extreme piece of shit. You know what I mean? If you see some car is blocking another lane and can't get in, you gotta fucking let him in. You know what I mean? So I don't blame the guy who's caught in between. He's fucking caught in between. Now, next time, if he doesn't try to get over it earlier, then he's a fucking idiot. You know what I mean? But this time, he's just caught in between. So I blame the person in the Tesla for fucking not making room for them. And then I blame the person in the other lane. It was some truck. It wasn't like an 18-wheeler. It's just like some 4-wheel truck slamming the horn at them when they see what the fuck is going on, yo. But it's just because people are pathetic. People are gay as fuck. They live gay ass fucking lives. Like I've talked about it. I have an episode called Gay Ass Road Rage. And that's what road rage is. It's just fucking gay ass people. I'm not saying it's a guy who wants dick. I'm not saying it's a girl who wants pussy. I'm just saying it's a gay ass motherfucker, yo. That person is gay for fucking slamming the horn at somebody when you see their car in between, yo. It's so fucking pathetic, yo. But then everyone calls the car that's caught in between stupid. You know what I mean? Like, that's what people think stupid drivers are, yo. Like I said on that episode recently, stupid driver rhetoric is the same as the get off my lawn rhetoric. And then when I was shooting the music video, like, it's ridiculous how unbelievable people are. I was taping on a sidewalk, and this piece of shit kid, like, I have him on video, he fucking walks right through the fucking filming. And like, I wasn't rapping when he was walking through, because when I saw him about to come through, I went to grab the camera, but you could see he makes no effort to get out of the way. You know what I mean? Like, if he was making an effort to get out of the way, then I would have never went to grab the camera. But I went to grab the camera, stop the footage, because I see he's not moving out of the way, and I didn't even really need to grab the camera, stop the footage. I could have just kept rapping and let him walk through it like a fucking piece, like the fucking piece of shit that he is. I try my hardest to do this shit when I'm not in the way of people, because I don't want to get in their way. And then like the one person that I'm in the way of fucking can't walk around. And there was a couple other people that did walk around and shit, but this fucking piece of shit didn't. I feel bad that I'm in their way. And then when they don't fucking try to get out of my way, I'm like, yo, fuck you. You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't imagine seeing people taking a picture or shooting a video and not trying to walk around it. You know what I mean? Like, I see it all the time. I'm always walking around people. It's not video. It's usually a photo. And I'm never getting in people's way. I'm always trying to get the fuck out of the way of the photo. But I got some incredible footage, yo. It's unbelievable, yo. Like how I could just get good footage on my own. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's better when it's someone who actually knows what they're doing and with a real camera. But on my own, I could still get good footage. Most of the footage that I got, I'm not even actually using, because this one shot looks so good. I do some close-ups of my face up in the camera, and it looks like so dope. And it's exactly like what I'm trying to, like, the image I'm trying to get. I'm trying to go for, like, I'm just a beam of light reflecting. So that's kind of what you get when you get just like the facial shot. So that shit looks good. But then even better than that is this footage that I got in a tunnel on, like, I had this verse. Oh, it's actually the verse I'm going to rap when I get on Kill Tony. But at the end of it, I'm like, now see there's light at the end of the tunnel. So I wanted to go into the tunnel, and I was hoping that there would be like light at the end of it. Like, I was hoping to kind of go out there when it's slightly dark out but still light, so that the tunnel would look dark, and then like towards the end of the tunnel it will be bright, but it looks like 1,000 times better than I envisioned it looking. So I'm really excited to go back to Florida to work on those 2 videos. So, like, one quick thing before I get into everything else on the episode. I have JRE commentary, and then I have this alien talk, and then this alien talk is kind of like what I saw as the most important part of the episode, but the JRE commentary is so much of it, so I figured I would just open up with this instead of close with this, because I plan on closing with this because this is kind of the meat of the episode. But since it's just a little bit, I figured I'd open it with it and then get to the rest of the bullshit. But like, the best way to describe the manic episodes is like you feel like you're in communication with the universal entity that you're the servant of, because it feels like you're in communication with God. You know what I mean? Like, whether you are or aren't, it feels like you are. And like, see, I'm not a problem right now because it's 2023. If this was the year 23, like 2,000 years ago, I'd be a problem right now. Yo, I'd be like, yo, I'm a messenger for God. You know what I mean? Like, I could see myself starting my own religion, like trying to tell people like I have the power. You know what I mean? And that's because you feel like that when you're out there and shit. So I wouldn't be shocked if organized religions all started from people going through the same experience that I went through. And like I said, it feels like you're in communication with the universal entity. So that might have been how the idea of God formed, you know what I mean? Like, by people going in through these experiences and coming out of it like, I'm the servant of a higher power. So I don't think that that's too far-fetched to believe could be true. But so I want to get into something that I truly believe. Like, a lot of my theories I just throw against the wall and they're nonsense and shit. But this is some shit that I truly believe, yo. I believe that aliens are not going to visit Earth or metal spaceships. I just don't think it's going to happen like that. I believe what's going to happen is aliens hijack our systems. That's what I think it is. I don't think you have to be thinking of alien abductions. I think you have to think of alien hijackings. I once heard something that totally resonated with me. It was someone was talking about how when we come in communication with an alien life force, it's not going to be anything that we can understand. Yeah, it's going to be life, but it's not going to be life as we know it. It's going to be a different type of existence, maybe in some other dimension, but we're not going to fully be able to understand what their life is. And that always resonated with me. I was like, oh, I bet you that's right, yo. I bet that's what's going on. And like, if you think about it, is there a better chance that aliens travel through the solar system on metal spacecrafts, they crash landed on planet Earth, and they get spotted by pedestrians, or they abduct individuals and they can't erase their memory? Or do you think they exist in another dimension in ways we can't fully comprehend, but they could get inside of your body and control your system by reading your programming? Like, the second one seems so much more likely to me. This has been my theory for a while now, and just a few days ago I heard someone on Rogan's podcast saying that we're getting better at reading the programming of animals and shit. Or I forget exactly what they were saying, but where he might have been saying that they're finding out that you could read our programming like a computer. Like, you probably could, you know what I mean? Like, there's probably ways, like, there's that a higher form of existing could just read our programming like a computer and just get inside of it and control it and shit. And I think that that's more likely the scenario that's going to happen with aliens when they come in contact with people, opposed to people spotting them visually. Like, I mean, I just think that that's such an ancient way of looking at aliens, you know what I mean? They might exist in ways that we can't even comprehend. Like, but when we think about aliens, all we think about is ways, like, we always give them two legs and we give them metal spaceships, you know what I mean? We give them electronics, like we have electronics. Like, we always assume that they're going to exist how we exist. But I just think that if you evolved in different places of the universe, then everything could get totally different. You know what I mean? Like, everything could, the way they exist could just be totally different. And like, they hijack our system and they read our programming, and I think that they could probably read our memories too. But they're not conscious like we're conscious. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, they're hijacking your system, but like, they're not consciously hijacking your system. They're just propelled by nature, you know what I mean? Like, and that's just a guess, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think that like, they're hijacking our system and then they're going back into their existence and they're sitting down in meetings with their president, like, okay, so this is what happened when I hijacked the system. You know what I mean? I think that each energy, each might be operating on its own, but connected in a different type of way, like connected in a species type way, but not through like verbal communication where they sit down and talk about game plans. But like, when I'm going through the manic episodes, it feels like some type of outside force hijacks my body. And the first one that I went through, there was a moment that it felt like energy got inside me. I was like, oh my God, that felt crazy. And like, when it happened, like, my back snapped into alignment, and that's when I weighed myself for the first time, and that's when I noticed that I shed 18 pounds. And that wouldn't shock me, you know what I mean? If an outside entity could get into your body, like, I can't understand how I shed weight every single time I go through the manic episodes. If an outside entity could get into your body, they might know there might be that 15 pounds that we're always trying to get rid of, that we're always fluctuating. They might be able to just make it disappear. They might be able to just shed that weight like it's nothing and shit. They might be able to snap your body into the healthiest form that it could be in the position that you're in. And it feels like I have supernatural powers when I'm out there, which would make sense if some type of extraterrestrial energy entered my system. And it's nothing outside the realm of possibility when I say supernatural powers, because supernatural, they're natural powers, but it just feels like my powers are super. You know what I mean? It just feels like I'm like on a higher level and shit. It feels like I've leveled up. But like, if it is an outside force that's hijacking our system and controlling us, it makes sense that everything is confusing to that force because of our way of life. Like, if they read a bird's programming and a bird's memories, it might be so easy to exist as a bird. If they read an ant's programming and an ant's memories, it might be easy to exist as the ants. Same thing with the alligator. Same thing with all these creatures that live one with the land. But if they do that shit with a human being, if they try to read the programming and the memories of a human being, then everything is made confusing to them because of the life that we've set up. You know what I mean? Like, they can't understand cars. Like, that's like it's like alien to them, cars. You know what I mean? Like, life on planet Earth, natural life on planet Earth is something that they could comprehend, but all this shit that we've manufactured could be alien to them and shit, and they just might be mad confused. And then what would they look like if they were an alien that's mad confused in a human's body? They would look like people who have mental illnesses. You know what I mean? Like, they would look like the people that we say are crazy and shit. And wouldn't it be convenient for the aliens to, the two ways that it seems like we've like kind of people feel like they communicate with aliens is well, at least me, when I go crazy and then in the psychedelic state. And wouldn't that make sense for the aliens, that that's when they could get into our body, when we're under the influence of drugs or when people think we're crazy? All right, so that was kind of like the main content that I want to get into today, and then the rest is kind of just bullshit. It's just about a bunch of shit I heard on Rogan's podcast and shit. But Rogan, he swears that coffee is not only not unhealthy, but it actually has health benefits. I'm personally hooked on coffee. Like, I drink it on basically every episode of the podcast I've ever recorded, and I love the ritual of having my cup of coffee. And to me, like, coffee, it's just the perfect drink to sip on. But it legit makes me feel shit and gives me a gross, dry, dehydrated feeling that permeates throughout my body. It gives me a speedy feeling that I don't like, and it's probably because I drink too much of it, but I never get like an energy boost of it. Like, he says, like, it's like a nice little, it's a healthy energy boost and shit. Like, I don't ever get an energy boost, yo. Like, I've drinking 8 shots of espresso and gone and take a nap right afterwards. You know what I mean? Like, I could legit do that and shit. I don't get an energy boost. I just get like a speedy feeling from drinking coffee. But what I've been trying to do lately is get off of coffee. Like, I'm trying to get off of coffee so badly, but like now I'm trying to get off coffee, and Rogan's like, oh yeah, that's health benefits. So I'm like, oh, should I really get off of it? And what I want to move to is I've been drinking a lot of watermelon juice, but I'll get to that in a minute. The problem with the watermelon juice, yeah, watermelon juice connects to this. I saw a video the other day saying that breakfast is a fake meal, and it's basically like an ad campaign for the butchers that wanted to sell bacon and sausage, and they had no way to get rid of it, so they created like breakfast and said it's like the most important meal of the day and shit, but you really don't need breakfast. Like, for me, it feels like breakfast kicks my system into gear, yo. It undoubtedly makes me feel better, yo. It's like everything is in stall mode in my system until it gets food, and then everything starts working. And in fact, it feels like coffee enhances the stall mode and food gets me out of it, yo. Breakfast to me feels like the most important meal of the day, yo. Like, my day is better if I eat something in the morning. Like, it's almost like I'm ready for the day. Like, all I need is a banana. Like, I just need something in my system to get me ready for the day. Otherwise, I just walk around just lethargic, hungry as fuck, just wanting to get to my first meal of the day. But like, what bothers me is it's like everything we knew about diets is thrown out the window, and we gotta believe the opposite, yo. Like, the carnivore diet and intermittent fasting are the opposites of what we've always been told. How did they have it backwards for all these years? You know what I mean? Like, are they actually wrong, or are all these new people in our ear wrong? But yeah, like, it's like the opposite of what we've always been told is right. Like, we've always had fruits and vegetables jammed down our throat, and what, now we're supposed to be eating all meat, and we've always been told it's extremely unhealthy to starve yourself, and now it's all about intermittent fasting. And like, I just saw a clip of a guy on doing one of those TED Talks, basically saying how it's proven that the longer you could fast yourself, the more health benefits you get out of it. And he's just rattling off all these health benefits and shit. And I'm like, yo, I thought like my whole life we've been told like, you don't starve yourself. Like, that's a terrible method for weight loss. So like, it's just so bothering. Like, you don't know where to turn these days. But Rogan always says that that morning hunger is like your body's playing a trick on you. I agree with Rogan on virtually everything, but that's something I disagree with him on. I just feel better when I eat in the morning. It feels like if intermittent fasting is a good strategy for losing weight, the way to do it is you feed that hunger in the morning, and then you don't really eat later in the day. Like, I never really need to eat later in the day. That's what I've realized, yo. If I eat a meal at 3 o'clock, I'm good. Like, if I have a meal at 3 o'clock that's like a dinner, I don't need to fucking eat again. And like Rogan always says, like, and something I agree about, like he says, like, food is like mouth, it's mouth pleasure. It's like a trick that our system's playing on us. Like, you stuff your face for just a little bit of mouth pleasure. And like, that's what I see it as. I'm like, I eat just a lot of time because I want to eat, but it feels like my dinner meal is usually just for mouth pleasure. Like, a lot of time I'm getting my dinner at 9 o'clock and I'm like, I don't even need to eat right now. Like, I'm only gonna be up for a couple more hours. Like, I could just stay like this and then just pass out in a couple hours. But like, if I hadn't eaten dinner and I hadn't eaten in a while, like, then yeah, I eat the meal anyway. But I like the concept of intermittent fasting because that's a diet I could easily do. But like, if intermittent fasting is the way to go, it seems like the eating hours should be much earlier. Like, Rogan is all about, like what I was just saying, not feeding that hunger in the morning and then just eating lunch and dinner. But like, I feel like if intermittent fasting is the way to go, 10 to 4 or 9 to 5 matters, like how small your window you want to do. But like, that area feels like it should be the time that you're eating. You know what I mean? Like, wake up, get something in your system, and then be awake for like 6 hours and then eat your big meal, and then you're good for the day and you could follow intermittent fasting protocols. If you're done eating by 4 o'clock at night and you're not eating again till like the next morning at 9 o'clock, you did 17 hours, and that's in the intermittent fasting window. Just skip your dinner and shit. Eating close to bed, like whenever I eat close to when I go to sleep for the night, that's when it feels like I'm putting on weight. But like, if I'm awake for like 6 hours after I eat my meal, it feels like my system is processing it. Like, when I eat right before I go to sleep, it feels like it's just sitting in my system. And this is where drinking coffee and intermittent fasting connects. Like, intermittent fasting makes me want to drink coffee when I drive in the morning because it doesn't fuck up the fast. Whereas I was talking about, like, I start to drink watermelon juice. My whole thing now is like blending a watermelon and drinking watermelon juice. And like, that's what I would ideally want to drink every single day. But that fucks up the fast, you know what I mean? Like, coffee doesn't fuck up the fast, and watermelon juice does. So if I drink watermelon juice all day long, then I'm fucking up intermittent fasting, and I'm not doing it properly. That's what is driving me to keep drinking coffee, because I'm like, I could do this as long as I don't put no milk in it. I'm not fucking up the fast and shit. And that's why, like, I got off that green powder drink. Like, I did it for like 2 weeks and I got off of it because I heard it fucks up the fast. And like, I have no diet that I'm sticking to right now, but I kind of stick to intermittent fasting and I'm able to do that. So that's what I would like to do if it actually works, or if it has health benefits. But it just feels like watermelon juice should be healthy to sip on all day and coffee shouldn't be. But they're saying basically the opposite is true, because I know watermelon juice is made of sugar. So I guess I'm guessing you're not supposed to sip on watermelon juice all day. But like, to me, like, that feels like what we should be drinking. You know what I mean? Like, you drink something that just grew from planet Earth, natural juices from a plant. Like, it seems like watermelon juice is what we should feed off of. Like they say, you are what you eat. Like, I'd rather be watermelon juice than coffee, but I don't fucking know. I just don't know what to do in terms of my sip drink for when I drive all day. It just feels like I should get off of coffee, though. Like, that's what I'm always trying to do. I'm always trying to get off of coffee, because I'm like, I feel like shit when I drink coffee all day. Like, I feel like shit now. Like, I always feel like shit when I drink coffee. But I'm so addicted to it, yo. Like, I'm just addicted to sipping on it, yo. Like, when people get in my car sometimes, they're like, I see you have your caffeine. Like, I don't even drink coffee for the caffeine. I don't even really drink it for the taste. I just drink it for the ritual of drinking it, yo. Like, it really is like a ritual that, like, I enjoy and shit. Like, I don't know what it is about it. It's just like the perfect drink to sip on. So Arnott's doing a discount right now where it's a free bottle. They're giving away fucking free bottles of their products to anybody who you just fill out your information and shit. And so, like, I know about because it's on my IG news feed, but somebody posted in the comments, they were like, it's not free. They hook you onto subscription without telling you, and then they send you a monthly order and charge you the full price. Like, these are the people that we live amongst. Like, and I bet you that this person is way more successful than me in life. It's 2023, and if you're an adult and you sign up for something for free, if you don't expect a subscription to be attached to that, then you're a fucking idiot. Just like the person who drove through my camera. They're a fucking idiot. You know what I mean? Like, how many times, I would say at this point in my life, it's about 1,000. There's been about 1,000 different times I've been offered for something for free and I signed up and I had to cancel the subscription right afterwards. It always does it, yo. Everything does it. You will never get anything right now for free without having a subscription that you have to cancel. That's fine. Just fucking, I'll cancel the subscription. Right after I sign up, every single time, I'm always looking to find out where to cancel the subscription was. These are the losers, though, that we live amongst. You know what I mean? Like, people who will go online and complain about having a subscription attached to a free trial that they got, yo. It's fucking pathetic. People are fucking pathetic, yo. But these are the people that are out there. And these are the dudes that chicks are fucking, yo, because they're not fucking me, yo. And then there was another post, someone wrote on it, I love what, like, all I do whenever I see sponsored like products in my feed, all I do is click on it just to see the fucking hating ass comments and shit. But the one person said, I'm not seeing any big results at all. I'm really questioning Joe Rogan's integrity. Like, first off, you're not supposed to see big results, quote unquote big results, from like these type of supplements and shit. But even if Onnit's products don't work, it still doesn't question Rogan's integrity. His integrity would only be questioned if he's caught on camera shitting on Onnit products. You know what I mean? Like, because I believe that Rogan believes in Onnit products. So, like, even if they don't work how he believes they work, he still believes they work. So you don't question his integrity just because they don't work the way you think they work. You just question his knowledge. You know what I mean? You question his knowledge on supplements, but you don't question his integrity. As long as he's giving you the honest truth, unless he's doing an advertisement, then you don't need to question his integrity. But if you feel like he's coming at you sideways, if you feel like he's lying to you in anything other than advertisement, then you question his integrity, yo. But that's how we get sold these days. Like, nutrition supplements seem like they're fucking everywhere, yo. Like, I talked about on another episode that I haven't released yet, Rogan interviewed this guy Mark from Soft White Underbelly. He like runs his channel and shit. And he was saying that he got out of advertising because he used to do like filming for advertising, but he had to get out of it because he said that like everything is like our product will make you happy and shit, and he was sick of like trying to sell people happiness and shit. But like in that episode like that I dropped, I was like, I don't think anybody's really selling us happiness anymore other than the pharmaceutical companies. Their commercials sell you happiness, but I don't think other companies believe that they're going to trick us into thinking that their product is going to make us happy. But what you do see these days is companies selling us are saying that their product will make you healthy, yo. Specifically, make you feel better, yo. That's what all the ad campaigns are these days. Oh, yeah, take this product and you're going to feel better. That's what everyone's trying to get us at, because everyone knows that everybody feels like crap all the time. Like, I want to take Alpha Brain and New Mood daily, but they're such luxuries. Each one is $30 for a 15-day supply. So that's $60 a month from both of them if you want to take them. Like New Mood, Alpha Brain, Athletic Greens, and microdosing capsules. Like mushroom microdosing capsules is what I would like to do. But if I do all of those, New Moon, Alpha Brain is $60 each. That's $120. Athletic Greens is $90 a month. That's $210. And then the microdosing capsules that I used to buy were $70 a month. So that's $280 on just 4 supplements every single month. Like that's way too much money. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not making enough money to spend $280 on supplements. Luckily, I just bought some shrooms and I made my own microdosing capsule, and I'll grab them real quick. It only looks suspect because it's in a bag, but if I could just put the shit in a pill jar on it. It won't look mad suspect. But yeah, those are the microdosing capsules that I made. Took mad long fucking hours filling these shits up. Then Rogan recently had on an older lady who said she's been studying psychedelics since she was 6 years old. And Rogan questioned, like right when she said, I was like, what? And Rogan questioned, he was like, how are we studying psychedelics when you're 6 years old? And she like kind of bit her tongue. And that's why I like doing cuts, yo. Like, that to me is cringeworthy, to say you've been studying psychedelics since you were 6 years old. If you've been studying psychedelics since you were 6 years old, I don't even want to hear your take on it. You know what I mean? Because you're on the same trajectory of a 6-year-old studying psychedelics and shit. Like, to me, it just sounds like the most ridiculous shit in the world. You could tell she felt like an idiot after she said she's been studying psychedelics since she was 6. But I didn't mind her perspective on everything, though. Some people, I can't stand their perspective on this podcast, but hers wasn't bad. But she like always brought everything back to energy, which is what I like everything in the psychedelics. She always brought everything with the mental mind frame and the psychedelic state of mind, it always went back to energy for her, yo. But what she said that I disagreed with was, she said we try to get back to that feeling of being a kid. And everyone's different. For me personally, though, like, that is not how I feel, yo. Like, I had the same energy as a kid as I have now, yo. I dragged myself through childhood, yo. I feel like I have more energy now than I did as a kid. But I totally disagreed with her when she said everyone longs for that feeling of energy that they had as a kid. Like, yeah, some people had it, but not me. Then he recently had Gad Sad back on. It's a podcast that just dropped. I'm listening to it right now. And like, when I saw the name, I knew I either loved him or hated him. I knew I talked about him on a previous podcast. I know whether I'm going to like someone's perspectives on everything by just hearing them talk. And when I was listening to this guy talk, I was like, oh shit, I know. This is the guy that I fucking couldn't stand, yo. And it's funny because on that same podcast, Rogan was saying that talent doesn't translate. Like, talent so translates, yo. Like, Jimmy Butler is a perfect example of it. Like, Jimmy Butler is where he's at because of how hard he competes and how he will not take no for an answer, yo. Anything that he believes in and is trying to do his hardest, he puts way more than 110% in. He puts in more than anybody else, and that's why he is where he is in life. That shit translates to anything he does in life, yo. Jimmy Butler could be successful as long as he's not demoralized. Like, I could see Jimmy Butler, like, in the 9-to-5 atmosphere, just demoralized because he fucking hates it and, like, hates the motions of it and shit. But if he bought into, like, a 9-to-5 atmosphere, I bet you Jimmy Butler would rise up the charts of corporations, you know what I mean? Because that's the type of person he is, yo. He has will to compete, yo, and he has an aggressive nature that translates everywhere. But whatever brought someone to where they are, the talent that brought them there, it translates, in my opinion. I think that he's totally wrong when he said talent doesn't translate. And he probably wouldn't like to say that. Like, he probably would like to bite his tongue with that. But the reason he said it was because he said some scientists say vitamins don't work. And that's why he was like, they're geniuses in one aspect, but then they're idiots in, like, this other aspect of thinking and shit. And it just shows you how, like, he was saying how it shows, like, talent doesn't translate. Like, you could be a genius in one thing and then have a terrible perspective on another thing. But what I disagree with is that I don't think that you could be a genius in one area and be an idiot in another. You know what I mean? Like, if you're an idiot in another, you would just say, oh yeah, I have no knowledge on that topic. You know what I mean? You wouldn't just have a totally terrible perspective and stuff. But I don't think vitamins not working is that terrible perspective. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know whether vitamins do or don't work, but it seems like there's a chance that that's not how you're supposed to consume vitamins. It seems like you might be supposed to get vitamins the way however you're naturally able to get them. It seems like if you isolate the vitamins and the minerals, it might not hit your system properly and shit. So I don't think that's that terrible of a perspective for people to have. So I don't think that makes someone an idiot just because that's their perspective. But like I said, if I don't like your perspectives on something, I just think you're a fraud intellectually. And this guy, Gad Sad, is a perfect example. And maybe he's a genius, yo. Maybe I'm wrong and he's a genius. And I'm not even saying he's an idiot. I don't like his perspectives, yo. But so that's how I realized that I didn't like this guy, because I was listening to his perspectives on soccer and shit. And I'm like, oh, I know who this guy is, because it reminded me he did a podcast with Rogan that I have a large segment on one of my podcasts totally disagreeing with what he said, but he's already unbearable on this new episode, and he hasn't gotten into, like, talking about research yet. He's only been talking about on this episode, he's only been talking about, like, soccer so far and shit. But the perspective that he had that I railed against on my podcast was, he said a generation of mothers practicing, like, he was told that, like, apparently our generation's mothers were told that, like, they're supposed to give us, like, cold love, like, when we're children, like, not supposed to pick us up when we're crying as a baby. He said a generation of mothers practicing cold love caused my generation's depression rates. It's so fucking wrong, yo. I cannot stress enough how inaccurate that is. Like, people in research and, like, in his position and shit, they're always trying to find, like, a deeper meaning for shit. You know what I mean? Like, some type of psychological meaning and shit. Like, it's so much more simpler than that, yo. Depression, like, the roots are just so obvious, and they stem back to sex, love, and purpose. Like, I have an episode called Sex, Love, and Purpose, but those are the deepest roots that everything with depression ties back to. Our souls lack those elements. We don't feed the soul enough. Sex, love, and purpose are the three elements that the soul feeds off of, And depression is a side effect of a sick society who's not feeding the soul those elements. Depression becomes such a blanket term that it just sounds so stupid when people say depression these days. And I just saw some fucking video online asserting people using cell phones late at night is causing depression, like something that activates our body before we go into sleep mode. Like, I'm telling you, everybody's looking into this shit so much. It's so much more simple than that, Show me someone who lives a life driven by purpose, whatever that is in that person's life. They live an active sex life and they feel love on a daily basis from the people around them. And I'll show you someone who's not getting depressed, When your life is void of those elements, you look for something to fill that void and you just naturally refresh your social media timeline. You know what I mean? Like, I think that people who are constantly on their phones before they go to sleep, I think that that's just a reflection. It's another side effect. But I think that people checking their phone late at night is just a symptom of people having nothing going on in their life. I constantly refresh my social media like late at night, and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, I'm not addicted to social media, I'm just bored with life, Social media is my go-to website. Like, I go to social media, I go to Gmail. I used to go to Hot Schedules, but now I don't have a job like that type of job anymore, so I don't go to Hot Schedules, which is like it's a scheduling website on our phones. But it's so much more simpler than all these psychologists are trying to make it out to be. And I can't stress enough. I'm so positive that it's not caused by a generation of mothers who are taught to not hold their crying babies. Like, if anything, our mothers were so broken, they overloved us. That's what I feel like I saw with my parents' generation. And like, our jobs are a major factor contributing to the large scale depression, like quote unquote depression. We work depressing ass fucking jobs that we don't want to be doing, and we're all trapped in it because that's our way of life. Like, who wakes up excited to go work in a restaurant, even if you're the fucking GM of the restaurant? Who the fuck is excited to go work at some corporate restaurant? Show me two societies, one of them that only has grocery stores and is void of restaurants, and a society that has an eating out culture like we do, and I'll show you a society with one of them has a higher depression rate. And restaurant jobs aren't the only jobs that suck the life out of our souls, but it's not more obvious than in a restaurant job where you're serving other people, Like, there's nothing to enjoy about that job. It's not a bad job to work, you know what I mean? But it's a soul-sucking job, And all these soul-sucking jobs that we have are a major reason that people are depressed. You know what I mean? That takes the purpose out of our life when you live a job that you have find no purpose in. And depression is like a form of learned behavior, When people hear other people say they have quote unquote depression, they recognize the feelings and they're like, I suffer from the same stuff also. Like, if the majority of the population in 1950 walked around saying that they suffer from depression, then more people back then would have self-identified, just like the transsexual population today. Like, it's so obvious that that's basically what's happening today. Like, we put it in their heads that these quote unquote diseases exist, and then people are like, oh, I think I'm that, and then people identify with it, and then the rates go up. That's what happens. But so this episode that Gad Sad was on, he towards the beginning of the podcast, he said to Rogan, he was like, now will you admit Messi's greatness? Like, Rogan was ever denying how great Messi is, or if he's aware of anything that Messi's currently fucking doing. And then he was like, will you just admit that soccer players are the best athletes? He said something like that. Just admit like soccer players are the best athletes. I fucking hate when people do that shit, no matter what their take is, whether I agree with what sport they're talking about or whether I don't. But it's usually someone who gets his sport hated on who starts those debates. They're always trying to say, oh, my sport takes the most intelligence, or my sport takes the most athleticism and shit. Every sport is different and requires a different type of athleticism. Yeah, like golf and baseball, those type of sports, it's hard to prove that you need athleticism as much as people play soccer and basketball and tennis and shit. But every sport is different, and I don't like to generalize which one requires the most athleticism. Like, I don't know which one does, Maybe fighting does, Like, I won't be shocked if fighting requires the most athleticism. But one thing that he did say, he's 100% right about. He said people rooting for their favorite teams, they get a testosterone boost when their team wins, He's right that you get like a boost of energy, I don't know if it's technically testosterone though, because kids get it too, and kids don't have testosterone if I understand correctly, or maybe they do and they just get a burst of it when they're younger. But I remember when I was younger, when I was a diehard Jets fan and they were playing Miami on Monday night, they were down like 24 points in the fourth quarter, and then they came back to win the game. I didn't even go to school the next day. You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't fucking sleep that night. But I definitely got some type of boost from that shit. But then Gadsad was talking about how like irrational we all get with the love of our favorite teams and shit, and try and deconstruct why this is, because that's what he is. He's like a psychologist, so like he's always trying to deconstruct why things are and shit. But he was saying it to Rogan like it's universal without realizing Rogan's perspective. Like, Rogan had the same perspective as me. That shit's gay as fuck to root die hard for a team. Like, and that's another reflection of a sick society. It's a substitute for depression. Like, some people get depressed, some people fucking live and die by their favorite team and shit. It's caused by having nothing real in life to care about. But rooting for teams just feels like the emptiness that we have, the same emptiness that causes depression and shit. But he asked Rogan if Rogan gets like that with any teams, and Rogan, like, he referred back to, he was talking about when he was crying when he was younger because the boxer that he likes lost. And like, that's why I fucks with Rogan, yo. I do not believe anybody should be obsessively rooting for teams, except for kids, you know what I mean? Rooting for professional sports teams is a kid's thing to do, and then when you have kids, you do it with your kid, you know what I mean? But it's like Santa Claus. It's like, who the fuck cares if these teams actually win unless you have money on the line? But I just think it's so corny when adults obsess over a team, and except for like someone like Mark Cuban, like, it's awesome for someone like Mark Cuban who actually like owns the fucking team. But it's funny, like, Rogan responding like, yeah, when I was 7, like, and he didn't say it as an asshole, but like, he said it how like I get it, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, when I was 7, fucking I cried about teams losing and shit. But that to me is who's supposed to have unexplainable fandom: children. And the Gad Sad dude was using his 7-year-old crying as an example, because his 7-year-old was like crying when Argentina won, and they're not Argentinian apparently, but he used that as an example, and he was like, what makes us get like this? Gad Sad was like asking that question because his 7-year-old was crying and shit. And like, your 7-year-old got like that because he's 7 fucking years old. He's a stupid 7-year-old, yo. Kids don't know any better, yo. They think this shit actually fucking matters and shit. I was once like that for my favorite teams. Like, I remember when the Jets lost to the Broncos in the AFC Championship when I was like 12 years old. I was legit had tears streaming down my eyes. Like, I wasn't broken down crying, but I had tears streaming down my eyes, yo. I just didn't know where life went from there. Like, the Jets were that close to the Super Bowl and didn't make it. Like, I couldn't believe it. But I was 12 years old, you know what I mean? Like, I could never fucking imagine getting like that for a team these days, yo. People get in my car and they ask who my favorite sports team is when they hear the sports stations playing. And when I tell them I don't have a team, they look at me like I'm fucking crazy. And I'm looking at them like they're fucking crazy for fucking giving a fuck about what team wins a fucking game. Unless I have significant money on it. If I have money on it, then yeah, I'm diehard rooting for it because I enjoy watching these games and rooting for a team. But I can't do it unless I have like at least $500 on the line. And like, it's different if you have family members or like a real connection to the team. But if you're just rooting for a team that you're a diehard fan of, I think it's the gayest shit ever. And then like, he did another soccer example. He was saying how he was saying like, can you do this? Like, can you get a yard in an NFL football game and shit? And then he was saying like maybe you could do it in a couple of different sports. And then he was like, but soccer, you would just look so bad if you were on a soccer field. Like, soccer is the one sport where you could kind of blend in. You know what I mean? Like, if you're the running back on a football team, like, you're going to stand out like a sore thumb. If you're on the line of a football team, you're going to stand out like a sore thumb. At least soccer, like, you could just move with the flow of the ball and shit, and your teammates can try to just avoid you and make sure that nothing ever goes your way to the field. And if you're on defense and it's going your way, then they could help out and shit. Like, you don't have to touch the ball in soccer, yo. It's different than other sports where people could literally, like, it's so easy to take advantage of you and shit. But like, if you were tightly guarded, like getting past one defender in soccer, nah, you couldn't do that. You can't do that shit with any fucking sports. He was using the can you gain a yard in football comparison. He was trying to figure out whether he could gain a yard. Like, yo, you could gain a yard in football because if the line blocks well enough, you could get to a yard before you even fucking touch. The best sport to do that with is like, how can I fare against a professional athlete is baseball. If you stand behind the plate, can you hit a professional pitcher? And the answer is no. Like, unless you played. Like, if you play college baseball, then yeah, you probably could. But if you never played baseball, then nah, you can't fucking hit a pitch from a pitcher. Like, you will strike out a million pitches in a row. a million at-bats in a row. Yeah, but that's all I've heard on that episode of the podcast. I've even got into where it goes from there. And he just had a podcast with Duncan. He said something that I totally agree with. He was talking about the why does this always happen to me people. Like the people who are like, why does this always happen to me? And he was like, they're always caught up in that because it's the life that they live. And he is 100% right. You know, the people who are like, why does this always happen to me? Like, I'm telling you right now, if you say that, you create or you attract what happens to you, yo. Or you make a big deal out of nothing a lot. But, like, you're the one manifesting it. You know what I mean? Like, that's not just that's what karma is. You know what I mean? Like, that's not random bullshit just hitting you. That's you being full of bullshit, so you attract random bullshit and stuff. What manifests on the surface is a reflection of our internal energy. And we really do create our realities, yo. Like, to me, like, people who are always getting sick on the surface, it's reflects of someone who's sick inside. But like I used to get it all the time at work when I worked with people and shit. Like you like serving tables and shit. Like you work with someone for multiple years and you could see the pattern that they exist as. Like with certain people, it's only a matter of time before this happens or this person did this to them or they just can't keep up with everything, yo. Just like entertaining their conversations is exhausting, yo. Communicating with them is the worst, yo. And like sometimes it's people I genuinely like, but like when I know they got into that mode, I just have to get away from them, yo, because I just can't fucking deal with it and shit. People who are trapped in that same bullshit are the type of people who are like, why does this always happen to me? And it's because you're trapped in the same bullshit and you're manifesting it. Like the other day, some lady that I picked up in my Uber, she got into the car and I was like, how you doing today? She's like, like that person is insufferable. That person's going to be a problem if you get into their life. You know what I mean? They're always going to have drama going on and shit. They're always going to have something that's a problem with them and shit. There's a 100% chance that she's a headache to people in her personal life. But yeah, there's some people who I just want to get them out of my car because everything they're talking about that they have going on in their life is like so terrible and I just can't listen to it anymore. You know what I mean? Like, they're always like, can you believe this person did this to me? Like, yeah, it's unbelievable. Like, I can't believe this person did this to you. Drama, outrage, and misery just follow some people. It's why I like my existence. I have none of that bullshit in my universe. All right, so finally, like the main thing I want to talk about on this episode, Rogan, it's something that he just recently said to Killer Mike on the podcast. He was like, if someone's out there doing something, you can do it too. Don't let anyone else tell you otherwise. If someone's a musician, artist, or an author, you can do it. That's so like Rogan's rhetoric. Like, dude, anybody could do this. Like, just do it. Just do it. Like, you could do it. Like, yeah, you could do it, yo. You can do anything you fucking want in life, yo. That doesn't mean you're going to be successful financially doing it. Doesn't mean you're going to turn it into a career, yo. Like, yeah, anybody could just fucking do it. Turning it into a career is some total other shit, yo. Not everybody could do it, yo. There's nothing stopping you from developing yourself in an art form. You could write a book, you could create an album, you could paint something, just don't expect financial compensation. You know what I mean? Like, when he says anybody could do it, if he gets him on his podcast and he promotes this person, yeah, anybody could do it, yo. But I just hate when he's like, anybody could do it. Don't let anybody tell you you can't do it. Like, yeah, anybody could fucking do it, but not anybody could be successful and create a career off of it and shit without any type of resources. But if you want to just do it, like, yo, you could do it. I'm proof that anybody could do it, yo. Like 12 years ago, 15 years ago, I had never done anything artistically. Then I started rapping. Now I do comedy. Now I have a podcast. But I'll never make it if I don't get to Rogan. And like the difference between this and being a lawyer and a doctor is there's no gatekeepers with this. You know what I mean? Like, we're just doing it. Like, that's why anybody could just do it. Like the art forms. Like, anybody could write an album. Anybody see a book, you got to get it published. So there is gatekeepers and shit. But anybody could write a rap album. Anybody could create stand-up comedy, go on stage and do it and shit. Because there's no gatekeepers blocking you. But like something like being a lawyer or being a doctor, like, that's different. You know what I mean? Like, there are gatekeepers with that. Like, if my son said to me, like, I'll probably never have a son ever, but if I did have a kid and they said to me that they wanted to be a rapper or a comedian, I'd be like, yeah, do that shit. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing to stop you from doing that. I would tell them, be like, yo, you could do it. You're just probably not gonna make it financially. But if when you're telling me you want to be a rapper, if that means just doing the craft, yeah, do it. I mean, like, you could do it. If my kid came up to me and wanted to be a doctor or a lawyer, that I would tell him, I don't think you could do that stuff. You know what I mean? Like, if I see you excelling academically, then yeah, I'd be like, yeah, you could do that shit. But you need to excel academically to pursue those crafts. You know what I mean? And if you don't you don't excel academically, you will get rejected from schools, and you literally can't get the license. You know what I mean? So that has gatekeepers. Lawyer, doctor, those type of fields do have gatekeepers. But being in the entertainment industry doesn't have gatekeepers, other than like acting does. You know what I mean? Acting has it. But anybody can be an actor. You just can't be a successful actor. You know what I mean? Like, if you want success in this, you gotta go through the gatekeepers. If you want to just do it, you don't have to go through the gatekeepers. But it goes back to what I was saying before. If you want to do it as a career, not everybody's able to. And my advice is get good at building relationships, yo. That's what you need to do. And like, I don't want to sound salty because I suck at building relationships and I can't lift my shit off the ground. But from what I've seen, if you want to get anything in life, you have to build relationships. But like, not everybody's gonna be able to substitute being an artist for real work. Like, that's not how the world goes around. You know, the world doesn't go around by everybody being entertainers and shit. The world goes around by being people doing construction, and by people doing electrical work, and by people doing plumbing, and by people doing agriculture, and by people becoming doctors. The fields that keep the world going. You know what I mean? So like, I think that it's a farce that you could do this shit and make millions of dollars off of it. Like, I don't think that shit should even be possible for people and shit. So to like kind of like persuade people, like, yeah, just go for it. Yeah, I mean, you persuade enough people to just go for it, all of a sudden there's gonna be no new buildings and shit. Snoop Dogg, I just heard him in a comment the other day, and like, he was speaking freelance, you know what I mean? So he doesn't necessarily like mean what he said, because he said something that made no sense. He said, if I sell millions of streams, that's what Snoop Dogg said, because he was complaining about like how much money you get off it. Like, you get like let's say you get $300 for a million streams, even though I think you get more. He was like, if I'm selling millions of streams, then how come I'm only getting this little amount of money? But like, Snoop Dogg, you're not fucking selling millions of streams. You know what I mean? Like, it's not selling anymore these days. And that's how it should be, yo. Art should be free, yo, which I'll get to. But you're not fucking selling millions of streams, yo. It's so hypocritical just in the language, selling millions of streams. Like, we all know streams aren't sold, yo. It's not a purchase, yo. It's just a stream. So it's not going to be exact revenue like selling albums was back in the day. Like, and it just highlights the entitled nature that artists have that were successful in the 90s. Like, they think sales is a right opposed to a privilege. You know what I mean? Like, it's a right to be a comedian. It's a right to be a podcaster. It's a right to be a rapper. Anybody could do it. It's not a right to make money off of it. You know what I mean? That's a privilege right there. And people who were successful in the 90s, they don't understand the privilege that was, because they're just used to the ridiculous album sales of going platinum. Like, if you went platinum in the 90s, you're following the same trajectory of your thinking. You know what I mean? Like, you haven't evolved. Like, I evolved differently. Like, in the 90s, I'm in high school and CD burning, I look at it as downloading music as a consumer. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, this is perfect. Like, this is the way it should be. And now that I create, I still believe that. I'm like, oh yeah, this is perfect. This is the way it should be. Because like, at the fundamental core, music has to be free. You know what I mean? Because without promoting the music, let's say you're just an artist creating music and you want to sell your music to people, how are you going to sell it to them if they don't know what it sounds like? You need people listening to your music and shit. And in my opinion, the way to do it is you give people the music and then they want to see you perform it, and then you charge them for the performance. You know what I mean? You charge them for the labor of performing, but the content, the creation itself should be free and shit. And I just think that that's a better model and shit. And like, you make money off of your likeness. You make money, like, once people like your music or whatever art form you do, you as a human being, as an entity, you turn into value. You know what I mean? Because love is wealth, because it turns into value when people love you and shit. They want to support you and shit, specifically when they love your craft, and then they could come out and support your craft. And like, another reason I like the streaming model is because you get paid by corporate entities. You know what I mean? Like, Spotify pays you, YouTube pays you and shit. It's not like charging money for music where, oh yeah, I'm charging my friends money. You know what I mean? Like, when you charge money for music, you're charging individuals money. I'm trying to make money off of corporations, corporate entities, not fucking individuals. And like, that's why it's just so set up for podcasts right now. Like, Rogan had another person on the other day. He was talking about Tucker Carlson. He was like, what's his ultimate goal? He was asking Rogan. He was like, what's Tucker Carlson's ultimate goal? Do you think he wants to run for president? And Rogan, basically, he just said it's simple. He was like, I mean, he makes a lot of money given his perspectives. You know what I mean? Like, he just makes a lot of money given his perspectives. Like, that to me is a goal. Like, to me, like, when people are like hashtag goals, like, giving your perspective and getting paid mad money for it is a goal. Yo, I love giving my perspective and shit. That's why I love doing the podcast. And that is how I bring this full circle. Like, to me, the podcast is the most sustainable art form, because like it's not relying on the creation process. Like, yeah, I do create these episodes, but this is just mad shit that I want to get off of my chest. It's not like I have to sit there and write a verse, or I have to sit there and write a bit and shit. Like, that shit isn't as sustainable. Like, that shit doesn't create as much as these podcasts create. Like, I have ideas for days. Like, I love doing the podcast and getting my ideas out there and shit. But that's why the model is so amazing these days and shit, because a podcast, you expect it to come in as streams. You don't expect it to come in as sales. You know what I mean? Like, when you're a musician, when you put out music, you expect it all, the revenue to come back as something you sold, but you're not selling it. A podcast, no one expects to sell their podcast, so everyone just looks at it as like streaming money. You know what I mean? And it's like, Rogan, I'd imagine he gets way more views on his podcast than Drake gets on his music, because he's putting out 3-hour-long podcast a week. I don't know whether a 3-hour podcast calculates the same in terms of what you get off of revenue as a 3-minute song, but if it creates 60 times, if someone sits there and listens to a 3-hour podcast opposed to a 3-minute song by Drake, if it gets 60 times the payment because it was 60 more times the amount of listening, then oh my god, you know what I mean? Like, it's all about the podcast opposed to music, because the music, not only do they have to keep listening to this song, and I don't know what happens if they download it and shit, but not only do they have to keep listening to the same song over and over, but it's only 3 minutes and shit, whereas a podcast, it's however long you want it to be. And like, people want to listen to a podcast of somebody that an entertainer they like, you know what I mean? So it's almost like the model these days is you put your music out there for free, or your comedy out there for free, and then you get the money, you turn into the value. Like I was saying, everybody who's successful in the entertainment game is able to have a successful podcast. And it's just like I said, the content creation process is so much more sustainable opposed to music or comedy, which relies on the creative process. But like, it comes back to, are you being productive as an artist, or are you being counterproductive? And that's why I'm not into the whole starving artist thing, like, where it's like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna try to make it in my art form and shit, and I'm not gonna work and shit. Like, I'm not into that, because I want to have a roof over my head. You know what I mean? If I want to have a roof over my head, then I need to contribute something. And if my music and my podcast has no value, and I don't want to be homeless, then it's my obligation to society to contribute something. And that's why I think it works out well driving Uber and shit. And like, a lot of creators, like a lot of artists, are servers at restaurants. You know what I mean? Like, they do bullshit ass work that they contribute, and that's how it's supposed to be and shit. But like, it's always about like trying to financially monetize your art form. You know what I mean? Like, that's all we have drilled into our heads these days and shit. Like, and I want to financially monetize my art form, you know what I mean? But like, I see the way it's set up, and the way it's set up is you just give it to them, you know what I mean? You just give it to them until the value comes back to you and shit. Fuck making $500, like, fuck making $10,000. I'd rather invest $10,000 in myself than make $10,000, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not looking for a quick come up flip. Like, I'm looking to build something that I could create value in the long run, and that's what the podcast is, you know what I mean? Like, everyone's like, oh, try to sell this. Like, people like merch, that's a big thing. People think you sell merch. I'm not fucking trying to jam merch down people's throats. People don't even want to listen to my fucking music. You think they want my fucking merchandise? Hell fucking no. You know what I mean? Like, it's not about selling merch and grinding to make this dollar, grinding to make that dollar. Like, yeah, maybe you made $18,000 in a few years, but what the fuck did you get at the end of the day? You know what I mean? Nothing from it and shit. I'm more trying to fucking give my shit out for free and play a role. You know what I mean? Like, have a real position, play a role where, like, I'm an entertainer that people like to tune into and shit, but you don't have to pay to tune into me. You know what I mean? Like, this shit's all free, and that's really how it should be. Everyone's so stuck in the model of trying to make money off of it. And like, I'm with trying to make money off it. What do you think I'm trying to do? Make money off of it. But they're all with the model of trying to sell everybody something and shit, because that's what it was back in the day. Like, they'll sell you the music, and then when they stop being able to sell you the music, they'll sell you the merchandise. Like, I want to sell you tickets, you know what I mean? Like, that's what I want to sell you. I want to sell you tickets to a show. Like, I'll even perform for free. Like, that's it. I'll perform for free, but like, that's because I have no value. If I create value behind myself, I'm not performing for free and shit. But if I create value behind myself. I charge for performances, and then I make money off of people streaming my shit, and I don't have to charge anybody $1 for anything. But if my kid told me he wanted to be a rapper, a comedian, or an author, I would look at how his success in life, and if he's not good at building relationships, I'll be like, you're probably not going to be successful in that. Like, I don't want to tell you not to do it, but if you're doing it for financial compensation, you're probably wasting your time and shit. But hopefully you bring something to light that's intrinsically rewarding and shit, but don't expect this to become a career and shit. That's what I would say to somebody, to my kid. Like, I just think that Rogan's advice was so far off. Like, Rogan's advice is great for anybody he's talking to, you know what I mean? But if you can't have a personal conversation with Rogan, then he shouldn't be telling people, oh yeah, you could do this, you could do that. Like, yeah, you could do it, but if you set your mind to being a financially successful entertainer, then a lot of you can't do it unless you hit the resources. Like, I believe anybody could do it if you get the resources, but if you don't connect with the proper resources, then you're never going to be able to do it, just like I'm never going to be able to do it. And it's just Rogan saying, oh yeah, you could do it, just do it. Like, don't believe, like, other people have done it, like other people have walked past, you could do it, trust me. Like, yeah, you could do it because there's no gatekeepers like in being a doctor, being a lawyer, but doesn't mean you're going to build a career off of it. And I hate how easy Rogan makes it sound. But, like, at the end of the day, this shit is about just doing, like, what you're passionate about. You know what I mean? Like, that's what it's supposed to be. But, yeah, if you're not trying to sell yourself, you're never going to make it today. The person who people see trying to sell themselves, put themselves out there and build relationships is the people who respect this quote-unquote grinding. It's really more of a building relationship game these days than it is talent. I'd say it's like something like 80% about building relationships and backing it up by 20% talent. But, yeah, Rogan just acts like it's too easy to get from point A to point B. Like, yeah, anybody could do it. Yeah, anybody could do it. It's possible for anybody to do it. But, like, another thing is we can't all be fucking entertainers. You know what I mean? Like I said before, like, it's not good advice to give a generation, like, oh yeah, just try to do art. You know what I mean? Like, nah, the good advice to give the next generation is don't do bullshit ass jobs. You know what I mean? Like, try to get out of sales. Like, try to do construction work. It's tough labor, you know what I mean? But if you want a generation to get ahead, everyone do construction work, learn agriculture and shit, like, learn real traits and shit, not become an artist. I would love to see America's population of, like, a certain age group and how many of them are trying to do art. Seems like everyone these days is a fucking artist. But yeah, it's tough. If you don't have resources, it's tough to get from point A to point B. And to end the episode, like I said, anybody could do it because there's no gatekeepers. But not everybody could be successful financially at it. It's a lot tougher than Rogan makes it out to be on his podcast, because all he sees is the light. He don't see the darkness right now. Sterm Worm, trip of a lifetime. Let's fucking go.